Welcome to the Resiliency of the Human Spirit podcast, where we share all about human triumphs for the collective's healing and empowerment. I am your host, Priscilla Hanley. My guest today is Roshni Sharma-Fleming. Roshni is a certified Ahava Healer, educator, Lightworker, spiritual teacher, and a Reiki Master. She is the founder of Steel Fire Healing Inc. and works with women who are educators looking to exit the education system in order to fully align with their soul's gifts and talents. Roshni helps women heal from early pain and trauma points and facilitates a holistic wellness journey for their highest well-being. Hi,
Thank you.
Roshni.
Hi, Priscilla. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for holding space for our discussion today. I'm very honored to be with you and to have met you in this lifetime. I think there's no
Oh,
coincidences.
thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. So I'll get started by asking you to share your story on how everything started for you to get you to where you are today.
Yes, I think when you have stories that, especially women, we carry stories, right? And it could even be ancestral and generational stories. And we come along this journey, and eventually, I think the soul gets kind of tired. And the soul is wondering, hey, what else is out there for me? My journey has just been like that. I was born in Africa. I'm a first daughter of South Asian parents and first generation in Toronto with my South Asian parents. I came to Canada in 1973. And during that time, the idea of raising a South Asian daughter is stressful. It's a lot. But I had good parents. They were loving, and I think they did their best. As I stepped forward into my journey, I fell into the profession of teaching for 23 years. And uh, once a teacher, always a teacher, but I was at the level of elementary school children and also adults learning French. So French is one of my superpowers. The the journey of teaching flipped over for me during COVID. Uh, I saw a lot of inequities, a lot of unhappy people, um, and especially in the virtual journey, which I chose to participate in. The virtual journey for me burnt me out. I was mothering, I was teaching, I was running the household, and I was trying to keep everyone healthy. And of course, with some of the energies around that time, I put myself much, much down the list so that everybody else could stay afloat. As a result of that, I fell very ill, very, very ill during COVID. And so, yes, I was in and out of hospitals, trying to get myself back on track. Um, During that time, the biggest lesson that I received during that time, it was, it's very common sense, but for me, it had to happen in this way. And during that time, I learned that self-care is one of the most underrated skill sets that, especially women, we don't consider enough. And it's not our fault. There's no one to blame here, no blame, no shame. It is perhaps sometimes how we are conditioned, the modeling, um, ancestral trauma, generational trauma. So all of these factors come into play into a woman's choices of how she cares for herself. Sometimes it takes a serious illness to teach the soul to say, you know what, you need to do better. And that indeed is what happened to me. During that time, I was shown a lot of darkness, a lot of shadows, a lot of physical ailments that were not only extremely difficult to go through on a daily basis, plus be a mother, plus also virtual teach my son and support him at home. The main thing that came out of this, the beauty, the light that came out of this was very simple. that I embraced my soul's gifts and scaffolded a holistic healing journey alongside traditional medicine so that I could heal in the most holistic and loving way. And so during that time, I uh, embraced my gifts as a Reiki master, a emotional freedom technique practitioner, angel card reader, essential oils specialist, all the things that I knew I needed to do for myself in order to actually survive. Because I decided at that time during my illness, I said, this is not my time. I have my life to seize, and the life is there for me. This is not my time. And my soul heard me. It heard me, and I gathered with very intense communication holistic practitioners, including my traditional practitioners. And I gathered them all together on email because no one had their doors open during that time, and said, I need help, and this is what I need. So that self-advocacy piece, which I think is also overlooked by women just because we're so busy and wearing so many different hats. The self advocacy of asking for what you need was born. And so during this time, as I was coming out of the illness, the um, the Ahava uh, the Ahava certification literally dropped in my lap, and my soul leapt out. My soul said, "You know what? That's where you need to go." And I took the turn. I took the fork in the road, and I became a certified Ahava healer, which added to the healing toolkit that I use for women.
You mentioned Ahava healing. What
Yes.
exactly is Ahava healing, and what are the processes involved in that?
Yes. So the Ahava healing, literally, Ahava means to give love. And so we study early trauma and pain points. And in my case, I study that in women. And I use those early trauma and pain points to scaffold a healing journey back to a woman's true identity and true purpose. So, what does that actually look like? It's basically get helping them to heal their story so that they can move forward in love. You know, when we're born, the Ahava theory definitely highlights that we are born uh, coming to the coming to earth. Our soul comes to earth wanting love, and sometimes we don't always receive the love that we need for whatever reason. And so, what happens at that point? The ego starts kicking in because the ego wants you to survive, and that's actually quite a normal response. Without the ego, we would not have any learning or teaching
Mhm.
in this lifetime. It is a teacher. So for me, when I look at someone's pain triangle, by gathering this data from women, and I'll explain how I do that. When I use that that pain triangle is three people that you were surrounded by when you were born. It could be your mother, father, and yourself. It could be your mother, your grandmother, and it could be your sister, for example. So there's always like a three. Why do we say three? Well, it's the caregiving that actually happens in that early point in life. And if, for example, if there's no mother and father, maybe an uncle and an aunt come in. But definitely there is that triangle that's formed in order to help you to survive. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I gather the data for women, I use a series of very simple questions, starting with their full maiden names, their date of birth, their parents' names. And what I do is I use intuition, patterning, numerology, astrology, and also theories that are like, for example, Carl Jung. I use those theories to help me to understand what this person is all about, what story has been created behind the scenes. And this is the story created by ego, by
Mhm.
fear. That's where the early pain and trauma is. Once we study those pain points, the most interesting thing that happens is then the person starts to discover and take some action and say, you know what? this is not who I am. This is not a faint of heart journey. This journey is difficult. It can take sometimes 3 weeks, sometimes 6 months. Why do we have such a range? It depends on what the soul wants to learn and how quickly the client actually, or the I don't like the word client. I would say change maker. Uh,
Nice.
a client sounds very like technical. These are not clients, these are change makers, and they are very courageous women who would like to make those changes and see better for themselves. And so that journey starts with discovery. And during that time, we look at the four quadrants of health: physicality, spirituality, emotionality, and mental health as well. And there are other, I sometimes question if there are other quadrants. And I would even push that to say, what is the energetics of this change makers being? Where they are they weaker in, for example, do they have a negative mindset? So all of this is related to me. What's fascinating to me during this journey is the energy behind the change maker herself. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about this journey is that once you start to discover who you are, then you're setting this little ball in motion, and then your ego starts resisting you.
Mm-hmm.
Say, no, you don't need to do that. And this is starts with self-talk. This comes to the mindset. You don't need to do that. No, that's scary. You don't need to move there. Oh no, you don't need a job like that. You are a data analyst, and that's where you're going to stay because I like it here. The ego does not like discomfort. It likes,
Mm-hmm.
hey, no, even me being a healer, the ego is it always kind of comes up on a daily basis. So I'm not immune to that either. But the difference is you teach the change maker how to transmute. And then you take that pain triangle and you move that pain triangle into a golden triangle. And the golden triangle is very simply a triangle made out of love, a triangle made out of peace, and a triangle made out of light. And the next step in the journey after discovery, we go on an adventure. During this time, we might study your inner child. And again, I have to preface this is that this journey, even though it sounds like step one, step two, step three, this journey is very unique to each individual change maker. You cannot, every soul is different, every mind is different. And so people are choosing this journey for themselves, are we are not painting you all with the same brush because every light being, every body is different. But this is the general steps that we take. And we take you on this adventure and we study the inner child. And a lot of this has to do with the inner child. A lot of your adult existence sometimes is related to the inner child not being given enough attention.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start healing that inner child, you're able to embrace her or him. And you're able to say, come on, let's go. Let's go on this adventure. Let's remember who you are before the world got its hands on you. This is not new knowledge, right? When the ego starts protecting you in the mind and building a cage around you, this is so you can survive and that you can stay in that pain triangle until you're ready to cross the bridge over to your true self. And so we have a discovery. We have the next part is adventure. And we are also studying other components such as nutrition during this time. So I may even scaffold a journey with a nutritionist and then you're coming home. Another activity that we also do is miracle writing, which is a stream of consciousness writing between the Ahava Healer and the change maker. And what does this do? There is no judgment in the writing. It is just what is coming through on your consciousness. And when I receive it, I respond with whatever's coming through on my consciousness, but there's no discussion. There's no analyzing because the ego loves that. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
analyze every thought that you're going to have. You're going to overthink everything. No, this is going to be a very non-judgmental, peaceful process so that you clear out whatever is blocking you. And that's really what it boils down to, right? Is clearing out the blocks of your energy so that you can flow with the divine. You can flow with the energy that is truly meant to be yours. After discovery, we come to a point of homecoming. Homecoming essentially means is finding your true self. And now it sounds very scripted, but it's not. It's a very beautiful journey. And sometimes you will take 2 steps forward and take 4 steps, 2 steps forward and 4 steps back. We know that healing is never, never linear. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of goes like this, and then you're like, oh no, I'm going to go down this way. And then because your ego is like is basically getting deconstructed, right? Uh, it's going to be there, but at least if you know that it's there and you you allow it to be a teacher for you instead of allowing it to absorb everything that you are, right? And that's where I think the collective needs to move into is not allowing the ego to continuously move into your energetics all day, every day. That's exhausting. The world does not need more mind and the cage of the mind. The world needs more heart.
Mm-hmm. I agree. This sounds like a very multi-layered healing, which is
Yes.
awesome. We are
Yes.
multi-dimensional beings, so when we heal, we need to do it on a multi-layered level, right?
I agree with you. I agree. And I think it's not even, and I know the work that you do as well, when you introduce, for example, a Reiki practitioner, not everybody would say, no, I'm comfortable with that, right? They're perhaps, so your job as a healer is to hold space for that and say, okay, what
Mm-hmm.
are you comfortable with? Where else can you go? Well, one of my change makers said, well, I I I don't need to do that. So she was getting a little bit ego in there, and so I just let it be. She says, but what I do need is I need some help networking.
Uh,
And so she was in a data analyst job, and when I went through the whiteboard, which is the collection of data, every time I looked at her and I was pointing out certain data points to her, I was reading her energy, and she would light up when I say the word entrepreneur. She would light up when I said the word leader. So using those, also the energetics of the journey is a really, really good way to inform the decisions that are made. And there's no harm done. It's always through love.
Wonderful. So I'm just thinking, what are some of the trends that you're seeing in the women that come to you for Ahava healing?
Some of the trends. Right now, I would say a lot of women are burnt out.
Mm,
Yes. And so the burnout is coming on a physical level, but I think also it's the emotional level, wearing so many hats and not knowing where to put yourself, where
right.
to put your self-care routine. And I said, even in a podcast yesterday, self-care is not selfish. You're not hurting anyone by caring for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get more into the self-care tips later, but it's it's a way for you to fill your soul, whatever it needs during that time, so that you can authentically be who you are and then step forward and be of service to others. So that's one of the things. And the other thing with women is, this is very interesting, is that they are in not always out of choice, in masculine energy, right? There
Mm,
again, you're wearing multiple hats. You're working, you're cooking, you're feeding. And even if you're not a mother, it is nothing to do with that hat, or you are divorced. It's nothing about the label. It's more of being in, okay, I have to do all these things today, and I'm going to harness that energy and kind of toughen up and keep going, right? Keep going. And sometimes that comes from domestic, uh, ancestral conditioning. It could come from generational conditioning, societal conditioning, where you
Mm-hmm.
see on the commercials the mothers the trimming the Christmas tree. If you're a family believing in Christmas, they're cooking, they're shopping, they're working, and then they're collapsing down into the living room in complete exhaustion. No, all of those images they are not helpful at all. And so I think a lot of women are in this warrior energy so they can survive and get everything done for their kids, but they also are forgetting themselves. Those are the
Right.
two things that I've seen.
So how do we put ourselves first? If you have a change maker who is running herself, ragged, right? With
Yeah.
work and family and the house and everything. And if you tell them to focus on themselves for self-care, and if they tell you, I don't have time because I have like 20 things to do on the list, how
Yeah.
do you handle that? Right? What do you say?
So I will use myself as an example. I am a doer, but I'm also a feeler.
Okay.
And when you are a doer and then you're a feeler, sometimes what you're doing, it doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing before any kind of practical tips is having that awareness, building that muscle of awareness around of what you are doing. This morning I did not have time and I felt rushed trying to make dinner before I cook in the morning so that my day is more smooth in
Mm-hmm.
the evening. I didn't have the time. I was busy and I was doing Reiki for somebody. And the the how I was feeling was very rushed. And I was feeling, especially I feel it in my solar plexus and not in my heart chakra as well. And I was very aware of that. You must build an awareness around your feelings. And if you're feeling stress, you need to make sure that you pull your energy back. And pulling it back, perhaps meaning by taking even 3 breaths,
Mm-hmm.
bringing yourself back to center, right? And it doesn't need to be money. Some women, well, okay, go if you want to go to the spa and spend $500 and you have the means, by all means, go ahead. But also, it is not about money. It's about what you need during that time and bringing yourself back so that you're more aligned with what you need. And breath is the first thing. And I know you would agree that breath is very grounding and breath is very practical. You can do it in 1 or 2 minutes, you can do breath, which helps you to find stillness. So I think what's really important for women is that you are building awareness around your feelings. The other thing is you don't have to make a list of 20 things. And they don't all have to be, I guarantee they don't all have to be done on one day. Guaranteed. I will fight anyone who thinks that they can do that. No, because 20 things is overwhelming. You are creating stress for yourself. Make a list of 3 things, priority. And once you do those 3 things,
Yeah.
celebrate, celebrate those accomplishments. Me, what did I do yesterday? I celebrated by taking my dog for an extra long walk outside in the
Nice.
evening after everything was done. So I celebrate in those simple ways. I celebrated by having an herbal tea after a certain podcast. So, you know, having these little micro moments during the day actually add up to a more full cup the next day. So you're not constantly dragging. I think women just sometimes we forget, and I'm not immune to that. I'm not perfect. But if you can build that awareness and you bring in those small tips throughout the day, you are actually going to make yourself feel much more aligned with your energies as to what you need. And sitting down is okay. You don't have to be on your feet all day. Sitting down is okay. Putting your feet up for 5 minutes is okay. It doesn't have, if it's for 5 hours, be my guest. Netflix, 5 hours, popcorn, whatever you need. If you have 5 hours, do that. I know I don't, but it depends on what you need, right? Um, the other thing is asking for help.
Yes, that's a big one. We are so
Huge,
afraid to ask for help.
huge. And I know I've struggled with that, is that I'll say, I need, and I've only started that in the last 2 or 3 years, especially after COVID. I need this. I need to have this, or I need to go have some downtime, or I need a nap. Um, Naps are like gold. They're like very rare, but if I do need it, I will go.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's really checking in with yourself. And like you said, right, we need to just check in and in every hour, actually, right? If you can do it
I love
every
that.
hour
I love
and
it.
just ask, how am I feeling? What do I need?
Yes,
Right? We're just so bombarded with distractions all day, every day, and you can lose yourself in those distractions. So I think checking in, that's how I check in with myself anyway. I try to do it every hour for just 2 minutes,
I love it.
close my eyes and just breathe and just ask myself, how am I feeling? What exactly do I need? What can I not do today? Right? I don't
Yeah,
have to do, like I said, 20 things on the list.
I see. I agree. And I think that being really obtuse about everything you need to be done is kind of a downfall of society, that if you're not busy, you're not
Mm-hmm.
functioning. And you
Right.
know what? That I think that's very wrong, in not wrong. I think it's a very uh, uh, contorted way of structuring wellness into someone's day. Um, so I don't say wrong, because I've done that too. It is, you have to learn how to ensure that you, like, just like you said, bringing those small moments throughout your day so that you can fill your day up. And by the end of the day, you're actually feeling probably just as good as when you woke up before your day started.
Wonderful. Thank you for these lovely tips. It's
You're
very
welcome.
useful.
You're
So I
welcome.
wanna I wanna move to shadow work.
Yeah.
Why do you think people are so afraid to do their own shadow work?
The first thing, very commonly, it's change.
Mm,
And the ego doesn't like change. The ego likes comfort. The ego likes fear. The ego likes you to stay the same. And when your shadows are there, and everyone has shadows. Healers have gone through multitudes of shadow work, shadow works as well, and also dark nights of the soul as
mm,
well. We call them D knots. Those components are teachers. And if you are going to get absorbed by them, you will never able to see what it's trying to teach you. It's going to try and consume you. And so when you are getting absorbed and looking at your shadows, you look at it not in a way that, oh my gosh, I have to fix that. I have to do that. There's nothing about have to. It has to do with healing, healing what your soul needs to learn, healing what your soul has gone through, what it's teaching you, and then using that to transmute into more of a lighter path. It sounds very woo woo, but it's not. It sounds, because some people deal with some really dark shadows,
mhm.
but it's there to teach. And if you embrace the shadows, oh man, is that fun. It's not easy though. If you embrace them, they're there to push you along, and they are there to say, you know what, I am here, but you wouldn't know your light without your shadows, right? you
Exactly.
wouldn't you would not know your light without your shadows. We would not know the moon without the sun,
Hmm.
right? So you need these kind of these in this case, a bit of the duality, even though we're stepping into more of a unity consciousness, as you and I have discussed before. We're stepping into that era now. But there's that duality. And if you are healing those shadows and lovingly looking at them and saying, you know what? Okay, I understand. And you're willing to change that, your ego is going to work with you, not against you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, it's so important for us to shift our perspective, because when you
Yeah.
talk about shadow work, everybody has fear associated with shadow work, right?
Of course.
Because they
Of course.
term it as bad. Shadow
Of
work is
course.
bad. But
Yeah.
if you just shift your perspective to one of neutrality, understanding that your shadow is there for a higher purpose to teach you
Yes.
something. Because
Yes.
if you're going through something that you don't prefer, or something that you perceive as negative or difficult, it is teaching you something, because it's teaching you that this is something you don't prefer. So if you don't go through something you don't prefer, you won't know what you do prefer, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly. That's so beautiful. It's like, yeah, my son says that he's like, I don't want to go to school. And I said, why do you want to go to school? Well, it's boring. I said, well, how would you know school is boring without actually going to school? Right?
exactly.
Oh, hey, right. Aha.
Right. So did
So
he go back to school?
he did. He has no choice. I'm a retired teacher, so
Right.
he wants me to homeschool him, and I said no. You need the socialization of that environment too. No matter how boring it is, out you go.
Yeah, bummer for him.
Bummer for
So I want to ask you a little bit about resources that you turn to for, your in your life journey or in your healing journey. Any
yeah.
resources that you can share with our audience?
In terms of self-care resources or any types of particular
Anything.
books
Yeah,
or
books,
uh,
meditation, spiritual teachers, anything.
yes. Okay. Well, one of the things I use is angels. I do angel card readings for myself as well and for my
Okay.
son, and so it is again just another tool in order to give you a bit of guidance. And you only take the message as it resonates with your soul. You're not going to just say, "Oh, this is happening because the angel said." No, the angels are there to give you guidance. And if you ask them, they will show you different ways, for example, in feathers or in coins, that you're on the right track. Another tool that I use is, in terms of practical tool, is yoga and meditation. And
Mm-hmm.
we know for millennia, yoga and meditation are one of the most beautiful and simplest ways to uh, center yourself and align with your energy each day. I think my meditation journey, when I first started, I meditated for 30 seconds and I said, this is enough. I can't do this. But you have to start building that muscle around yourself, just like
Right.
awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So meditating for 30 seconds can then, over 30 seconds per day is 30 seconds per day, but then it's 210 seconds per week. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So you keep moving forward. You can
Mm-hmm.
just keep allowing yourself that grace. And also, what I'm learning personally is grace. Give yourself grace, right? And you don't have
Right.
to be so hard on yourself and speaking to yourself harshly. If you are a healer like I am, I don't speak to my change makers like that. But sometimes I would have gone through periods where you speak to yourself like that, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why am I doing that? It's maybe my soul needs something else during that time. Other resources that are really, really important is connecting. And again, a lot of it has to do with your personal journey. Connect with someone external to yourself. Ask for help, right? It could be Priscilla. It could be a Roshni. It could be a nutritionist. It could be a a sound bowl healer. It could be anyone like that that you feel uh, that you gravitate to in order to help you on your journey. It could
Mm-hmm.
even be a minister at church if you are
Right.
one who goes to church. It could be your husband, it could be a partner, a sister, someone who you know can help you in your journey, your soul's journey as well. And so reaching out to external resources are extremely important. For me, I have trouble asking outside of myself. I trust myself more, but I notice that it's not always beneficial to me. So where I go in terms of help is probably I would ask my sister. That would be like one of my main things. I would ask her, and because I trust her, right? It has to be
Mm-hmm.
someone that you trust. Other resources, I would say, um, technically in terms of tools, I use emotional freedom technique as
Okay.
well. So
Yeah.
just as a practical tool to help me with my energies and transmuting any other energies that perhaps doesn't belong to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, what kind of programs do you offer to the collective now in Still Fire Healing?
So right now I am offering the Ahava program. That's one of them. And so it could be a 3 week or a 6 month journey, depending on what your soul needs. Another program that I'm offering is a 3 session counseling session for mothers and diabetic teenagers,
Mm,
and to establish strategies and communication strategies surrounding their diabetics who are on insulin pumps. Um, I also am offering, in this case, uh, in more recent weeks, with teenagers who are needing help with stress management. So I offer like a 6 step sessions to help teenagers going through exam stress, going through their adolescence, uh, and they need a little bit more support in that way. So I offer tutoring sessions, if we
hmm.
want to call it that, and I teach them tools via Zoom to
That's
help them on
wonderful.
their journey. Yeah,
That's wonderful. It's better to start early, right? Learn to
agree.
center yourself at a young age. That
Yes,
helps society.
it does. I
So,
agree.
you have a special gift for our audience. Would you like to elaborate more on that?
Yes, thank you. Priscilla and I will sing for you for 30 minutes for free. No, I'm just
No, I can't
no,
sing. You don't want
neither can
that.
I. I offer 30-minute free consultations, and more specifically, taking a look at your self-care routine, and I can give you some amazing tips in order to help you feel your best and highest self.
Wonderful. I'll put that in the show notes. And where can people find you?
They can find me at stillfirehealing.com. They can find me on LinkedIn, and my Instagram handle is stillfirehealing888.
Okay, wonderful. So we have a little bit of time left. So before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you a signature closing question that I ask all my guests. So my question to you is this: what is your closing message for humanity to help in our collective healing and empowerment?
Uh, One of the main things that I have always and so passionate about is that ener- the the energetic self-care routine is just as important as your physical self-care routine.
Mm,
So finding the tools that speak to you in the most and simple tools that speak to you, that give you the energy and to give you that robustness through your day is so important. Just as we brush our teeth daily or 3 times a day, you want to make sure that your energy throughout the day is also cared for, and that comes in a multitude of tools. Multitude of tools. It's finding the ones that work for you and choosing the one that you can do in small amounts throughout the day if you don't have a lot of time.
I resonate with that because it's all about the energetics for me, right?
Exactly.
If you don't take
Exactly.
care of the energetics, you're not going to be functioning well.
No, I agree. And I think because when you're running on empty, when a car runs out of gas, you are not going to run. Okay, the
Mm-hmm.
car's not going to run. So it's the same thing. If your adrenals are collapsing, you're feeling tired, you haven't slept. Um, I remember my husband, I hadn't slept. I don't know if it was full moon energy affecting me. I had big circles under my eyes, and he says, "Are you sleeping?" And I said, "No." And he was laughing at me. And I said, "Look," I said, "I need a nap." There you go. I did my self-care. I need a nap. And I did. And so again, just finding, and it wasn't a long nap. It was like 10 minutes, boom. And then I felt much better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're running on empty, and especially your energetics are running on empty, you're not going to be effective and be your best self. You're going to take out your frustrations on others.
I agree, and we don't want that.
We don't want that.
No.
Exactly.
Thank you, Rosny. I had such a wonderful time connecting with you and talking with you today. For everybody who's watching and listening, thank you for your time. And till next time, bye for now.